Hello everyone, welcome to my shop. It's me, Rob, with the KB Cabinet channel, and give you guys a little 360-degree view. I've got this big commercial job I'm doing here, but in this video, I wanted to make a short kind of targeted video for the brand new cabinet people out there. So this is going to be like for the absolute beginner, or at least someone who's starting out, and just kind of like if you were trying to work it through your mind, like how you're going to go about, just like what goes into building the cabinets. You're trying to figure the whole thing out. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start by taking a look at just a wall cabinet, something pretty straightforward. So the main components is you're going to have a left and a right side, top and bottom, and a back. You can see there's some drill holes going on in there. And then some shelving that goes in between, and then a door on top. This one doesn't have a door on it, so we can kind of see what's going on. And we're going to start by taking a look at just a blank face frame. What we have here is just it's pretty standard face frame. It's oak. If we flip it over, you can see we've got some dados on either side for the walls ends to sit in, and then we've got a bottom dado for the tops and bottoms. They'll notch into that. Some pocket holes, and it's been screwed and glued together. If you just had this frame, or you built the frame first, we're going to kind of break down how I would figure out what kind of parts I need, and then we're going to go into VCarve Pro, and we're going to quickly make all the parts in VCarve Pro. So it should be a short video. Again, this is kind of more directed for the beginner. The first thing I want to do a quick flyover is the dado itself. So we use 1/2-inch plywood. So this groove, the dado into the frame, is going to be a 1/2 inch. This is going to be a 1/4 inch. You got your 1/2 inch, and then you're going to have the remaining 3/4 of this 1.5 inch style. This is a style, this is a rail. We can see that if I actually brought a wall end over here, these are, give us kind of a visual. If I take this wall end, I apologize, I don't have a camera stand. It's been a busy day, so I'm kind of doing this with one hand. But we can see here that these are obviously not the right size. It's not meant for that, but that's okay. We're gonna design it. But you can see the idea is that the top and bottom slides in. It will line up with this, and then you would grab a bottom piece that's been notched, and that notch, you can kind of see it, slides in there, and you would fit it like that. So we wanted to figure out how far we need to make this dado, because we want to make sure it gets in the notch. What we can do is, if I put this back here, I can take my tape measure and I can see how far I need to get past so it makes it into this slot. In this case, it looks like 3/4 inch. So this needs to be at least 3/4 inch. So we're more than that, so we're plenty good. If we take a quick look at the back of this cabinet, this is actually upside down. So this is the bottom, but I put it upside down so we can kind of take a look at what we're going to do at the bottom here. If I take a bottom, and this is how we design them. There's a lot of people probably design them differently, but I'm just showing you what we do. So this is the front, this is the back, and you can see that at the back of this bottom of the cabinet, we have this 1/2 inch wide back rabbet, or a rabbet on the bottom, and that's actually it's actually right here, and it allows the bottom of this cabinet to set in on the top while also being recessed in. So the top of the cabinet doesn't have that. It's just going to be the bottom component of this cabinet is going to have it. Hopefully that all makes a little bit of sense. So we're going to go into VCarve Pro and start making some body parts. Alright, so we're here inside of VCarve Pro. It's the main loading screen, and we're going to create a new file. But before I do that, I want to pull up some pictures to help kind of reinforce what it is that we're doing. And what I did is I took a picture of some parts that I already created, and I'm holding them up to a tape measure, and it's kind of an exercise in reverse engineering. When I was new to cabinetry, I would take stuff that had already been built and I would measure it out, like everything, and because I didn't understand the relationship between all the operations. So in some pictures I'm going to kind of explain the logic as to how you could figure out something, like if you were if you had access to like an old cabinet or a new cabinet or whatever, where you could get in and start just taking some measurements. So here we have, this is one of the wall ends that we're going to create. And this is kind of the relationship, like where the drill holes are placed. So we got the overall width, it's 11.5, 12-inch deep cabinet. So half of that inch, if we have 12 inches deep, half of that body part's going to go into the face frame, a half an inch, and so we get an overall depth of 12 inches. But you can kind of see how, where these holes line up. And the reason I'm holding a tape measure to this is because this came out of a program that whoever engineered it had determined that this was a standard, and you can kind of set this to whatever you want. But if you were new and you had a body part, and you can measure this and say, well, someone had to make the determination that this was, an industry standard, so to speak. And if it comes out of a CAD program, even though inside the program you can change it, you can customize it, but as a general rule, it's probably pretty close how it comes out. And if we go here, we can take a look at, kind of where the dados start. And I took this one to see, this is the bottom of the wall end, and so if you were curious as to where to start, if you're doing this manually, like in VCarve Pro, we have to do everything manually, so we have to kind of know what it is we're aiming for. And this right here tells me, well, this is a good place to start the first hole as we move up, because this is what's coming out of a CAD that's programmed already. And so yeah, and so here's it's just some visual references as to how I would approach kind of reverse engineering something. And I apologize if I went way too long on that topic, but I just think it's important because that's how I learned. And you can see right here, there's the drill holes. This is there's a gap, as you can see. There's a gap right here where it's not even. That just indicates that there's multiple shelving. Cabinet Vision does that, so that means there's two shelves that belong in this cabinet. So without wasting any more time rambling about that, we're going to come back into VCarve. We're going to create a new file. This is our sheet of plywood. You can see how I set up my job. It might be different for your machine. I'm going to hit OK, and here we have our plywood. So the way that I start out is I always make my wall ends, and then my tops and bottoms and my backs. There's no rhyme or reason, but that's the order that we're gonna knock these out real quick. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come over here and create layer. We're gonna create a base layer. We're just gonna call it base for now. Leave it black, and we're gonna come up here to create vectors, draw a rectangle. This is where we're going to put in the size of our cabinet. And the face frame that I showed you earlier, it was a 12-inch wide by 30. So I'm going to click this bottom left. I'm going to zero this out before I forget, so that way our part starts where we want it. But that 11.5 again is to count for the ½ inch that it goes into the face frame. So we're going to hit create. And we have our wall end. We just need to add a few things to it. So next step, we're going to create a new layer, and this layer step is totally 100% optional. I just like it because it color codes my operations, and I color code or I name my operations based on the tool I'm using. So whatever I see or whatever color, it's not so much to separate it from a visual, but like I know what tool on my machine that's going to run that. So it's something I like to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to right click guide lines and create a horizontal guide. Alright, we are going to come up in this new position. We're going to put 0.5 inches and hit apply. Alright, it puts it ½ inch up from the bottom. The reason is I use ½ inch backs. So if you use a 1/4 inch back, which a lot of people do, that you want that to be a 1/4 inch. With the dado line selected, we're going to turn on snapping. I'm going to get my draw line, and we're going to connect this. And if you can hear my child in the background, I apologize. We're going to delete, let's go ahead and delete this guide for a second. You can see that it's red. And so that indicates that it is on our dado layer. Next thing we want to do is create a couple vertical lines. And the first one, we're going to put 0.75. So we go back to our picture. This distance is 3/4 of an inch. So that's where we want to start this dado. Alright, snapping on, same deal. We're going to make this line. And then what we want to do is we want to move this to the other side. So if I put in 30 inches for now, that's going to put us right at the edge. So we want to come back 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to put 29.25 and hit apply. And do the same thing. We're going to put a guide there, and then we can get rid of this line. And now we have our dado. So that's basically it on the dado. So the last thing that we really need to add is we're going to create one more layer. We're going to put holes. For the drill holes, we're going to color this green. Alright, and we're on the holes. Let's move this a second. So if we go back to the picture we took. Alright, so if we analyze this picture and we say this is the back of the cabinet and this is the top, so it looks like from here about 2 3/4 of an inch. So if we come back to VCarve and we create another horizontal guide, and we're going to put this at 11.5 just for a minute, because that's where we need to come down. We go back here, we need to come down 2 3/4 of an inch. So if we take, and I'm bad at math on the fly, so if we take 11.5 and we subtract 2 3/4, we get 8 3/4. And some of you guys probably had that figured out way before me, but that's okay. 8 3/4 we're going to apply. So that is where the it looks like the drill holes start from the front. So if we go from the back, it looks like we're at 9. So we've got 1 2 3 3.5. So 9 10 11.5. So that's 3.5 from the back rabbit side. So that's real easy for us. So first off, let's draw this line here first to connect that. And then, actually, no, I lied to you. We just need to leave this guide here. We don't actually need to draw anything, we just need it here. So we're going to leave this at 8.75. And that's that. We're gonna make another horizontal guide. We're gonna put this at 3.5. That's what we want. Sorry, it's been a long day. I apologize for that. All right, so now we've got our two centers where we want them. And so now if we take a look, I had measured right here. So this looks like about 7 inches to the center of the first hole. So we're going to create a vertical line and we're going to come up 7 inches. We're going to hit apply. Alright, so it looks like that's where they start. And so now we got to start assigning holes to it. How we're going to go about placing all the drill holes, we're actually going to go over here to create a vector. We're going to draw a circle and we're going to leave the radius at 1/4 inch because it doesn't matter. And we're going to zoom in on this bottom left point and we're going to click there and put that circle there. Alright, so in the past I was just using guides and I was marking every intersection that I needed to put a drill hole, and it was fast and tedious. So I got to give a shout out to Rick Nolan 1215 because he told me I need to use the array tool, and so that's what I'm going to do. And so once we have this circle placed, I'm going to click it and I'm going to click the array copy, and this is what we're going to do. I already have this pre-filled out, so I'm just going to kind of go over what I am doing. So right up here, the rows and columns, so the rows are going to represent, so it says 2, so we're going to have one bank going this way and we're going to have one row going that way. So that's the 2 for the width, and then the 15 is the amount of individual holes we're going to place. So we're going to go down that way 15 holes. Under spacing, we're going to use the offset feature, and in the X we're going to put 1.25 because that represents the spacing between holes. So there is a distance of 1.25 inches between those two holes. So that's where that is. And then there's this 5.25, which is, if we get out of here one second, I got that from the measuring tool and I measured the center distance, center point to center point of where our two holes are going to get. And you can see in the top left we get 5.25. Alright, so that's how we got that. So we're going to click the array, we've got it all plugged in, we're going to hit copy, and if we zoom out, turn off spacing here, or turn off snapping, let's delete all our guides. Then we've got our drill holes, we've got our dados, our rabbit, and we are done with this. So what we're going to do now is we need another one. So we're going to select everything, and we are going to edit, copy, edit, paste, and it pastes right on top. So you can either click and drag. Oops. Let's do that again. Make sure. So if we click and we can edit, copy, edit, paste, just drag it up just like that. There we go. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we've got to reverse everything because we don't want two that are the same kind. So we're going to hit mirror selected and we're going to flip over the vertical. And you got some little visual guides of what axis it's flipping on. So we'll flip vertical. We got a left and a right side. So we're going to click both of these. We're going to drag them over here. Alright, so now that we've got our left and right sides, now we need our tops and our bottoms. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make another rectangle. We're going to make sure we go back to the base layer, and that is selected. And the first one we're going to do the bottom. So we're going to keep it 11.5. But in the height, we are actually going to go 10 and 15 16ths, which is 9, 3, 8. We're going to hit create. And that is going to give us this is going to be our bottom. So we're going to start with that. And you remember that I said the bottom is going to have this dado that we need to sit the back into, and then we also need to add the notches. So we'll do the dado first because it's the easiest. Okay, horizon line, we're going to do it a 1/2 inch because I'm going to put 0.5, not 0.5. We're going to hit close, and it looks good there, and boom. So that's what we need. So that's what's going to be pocketed out. All right, so for the notches, real easy. What we're going to do is we're going to create 2 vertical guides. We're going to come in 1.25 inches, left to right. And then we want to do, got to get out my calculator. It's always good to keep a calculator on hand. We got to come back 1.25 inches. So we're going to put 10.938 minus 1.25. That gives us 9.688. So we're going to create a new vertical line. We're going to put 9.688. We're going to hit apply. Alright, so we've got our, this is how far we want to come in. Now we just need to go how deep. And so the depth, let's create another horizontal guide. I know we're doing a lot of guides here. So 11.5 is how deep we are. So we're going to come in 1/4 inch. So we're going to put 11.25 for 11.25. And that's going to give us what we need to start drawing some lines. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to go back to this base layer so that it's black. We're going to get our create a line tool, and we're going to trace out just this shape on each side. Oops. Maybe a little closer here. Alright, so now if we turn off snapping, if we go to view, let's delete all guides. Alright, you can see that that is basically the shape of the notch. Now we just got to get rid of it with interactive trim, the pieces we don't need. And that is basically it. That is literally all you have to do. And if you're new to CNC, this corner, there's no need to try to put a radius there because your round bit will create that. As it follows that path, you're going to get a natural round curve there. So that's it with the bottom. So I'm just going to use my keyboard. We're going to move this out of the way. And we are going to do the exact same for the top. And we can actually start from scratch. Or we could copy and resize this one, but we're gonna start from scratch just so you can see that this one's gonna be a different dimension. So we're gonna do this one's actually only gonna be 11, and that's because it's gonna sit over this one and it's gonna end where that red line is. So we're gonna do the same thing. Okay. E. Alright, now that we have got our bottom complete, we're going to click it and we are just going to right tab it. We're going to just tab it over. And so we have to make our top, which is going to be basically identical, but it's not going to have this extra 1/2 inch. So an easy way, we could go back to the rectangle, we could start from scratch, or I could select this. We're going to hit edit, copy, edit, paste, and I can move it over. And whenever I'm editing anything, I like it to be in the absolute corner. So I'm going to hit M on the keyboard, just zero it out. So what we can do is we can first delete this because we don't need it. Then I'm going to put another horizontal guide. We're going to put this at 1/2 inch. Second time I did that, 1/2 inch. And we're going to quickly just cut this off at 1/2 inch and just interactive trim. Now, you guys might be watching this and be like, wait, there's way better ways to resize it. I found that if I resize it, it always does it from the top, and so it cuts that out. So that's why I do it that way. So if there's a way to edit shapes without, where you can choose which side that you want to add or remove, let me know, because I'm not necessarily the best with VCarve, but I do like using it. Alright, so now that we've got our tops and our bottoms, so let me hit move, and I'm going to kind of move this. So we've got left, right, top, bottom. So all we now need is our back. So we're going to draw another rectangle, obviously, and we're going to put 28 1/4 by 10 and 15/16 for the width. And again, I'm going to zero all this out. And I'm going to hit create. And actually, I want to do that the opposite way. So we're going to put 10.938 here. 28 1/4. You can see I'm kind of rusty, it seems like, on certain things, but shoot, man, just if you try it once and then it doesn't work, just plug something else in. Alright, that is it. Okay, this is it for the parts. So, if you do that, if I drag these over. Alright, so where I go from here, if this is paint grade, the reason that I oriented it that way is that's the grain is like long ways. So if it's a paint and it doesn't matter, you can orient it however you want. But if it's like a stain grade, or if you're going to do clear on the interior and you're want to be mindful of which way you orient the grain, you just have to remember grain is going to run left to right on these big sheets of plywood. Okay, so this is it. This is basically it. And so what I do is I start grouping like things. What I mean by that is, like, I'm going to click all these drill holes, and we'll come over here and group them, so that way if I select them, it selects all of them. Okay, we can also, we'll just pretend that this is how I'm going to optimize it on the board, because I'm sure you guys can figure it out. It's like Tetris, where to place it. You can use the nesting feature over there, right here. So we're just going to pretend, for the sake of this, that we've done everything. We're good. We're happy with it. So we're gonna. I'm also going to group all of the black base layers together, and I know I can do that safely because I know how VCarve is going to plan the tool paths. What I cannot do is I cannot put all the dados together, because it doesn't know which side the tool is going to go on. See, the way that I have drawn these lines is the tool has to be on a specific side. Like, for example, the tool needs to be on this side. It can't be on the line, it can't be over the line, it has to be over here. And so if I group all these together, you're not going to get the result you want. I know that from personal experience. So you just got to kind of do that one at a time. Because my tool library is going to look probably very different from yours, I'm not going to go over how I assign everything, but what I will do is we'll just pick one, and I'm just going to show you kind of how I approach assigning tool paths just on one of these parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is, like I said, I do holes first, and it is going to select both of those. That's okay. We're going to go into my drilling tool path. Okay, my cut depth is going to be 3/8. That's pretty standard for what I do. Under my tool, I have a drilling. It's a drill bit that I put into tooling because VCarve cannot control a drill head, unfortunately. If you have a big CNC with the drill bank, as far as I know, up to this point, it can't control it. So the workaround is by getting one of those drill bits, make sure it's a right-hand cutter, and you put it in a tool and you just use it manually. So I'm going to hit select because that's the one I have set up, and we're just going to hit calculate. And it's going to calculate it, and where we got a 3D kind of a picture here, and if I preview visible toolpaths, we can see it put in our drill holes. And so next, what I'll do is we're just going to work on this one part here. I'm going to click it, we're going to close it, we're going to come up to Profile Toolpath. Under my cut depth, we are only going to go 1/4 of an inch deep, because remember we're on 1/2 inch. So my tool again here is going to be a 3/8 compression bit. So the reason why I said it's hard to group it is because you have these right and left vectors, and it's to be on the right and left side of the line. Well, if you make a part and you were to do this and you say, well, I chose the outside and it applied it to the outside of the line on that one. If you made a part and then copied everything and then mirrored it, it's going to mirror that too. And so that's why it can get confusing. And so what I do is I just pick one to start, and if I hit dado number 1, I hit calculate, and the way you check is you go to your 2D view and see it's not correct, because this is the actual tool path that it's going to travel, and it needs to be on this side of the line. So what you do is you can double click that dado to go back into the profile. We're going to go the inside, and now when we check it, we can see it's on the correct side. Now as a reverse that, if we click this line, close this out, we do the same thing, we should now be able to select the outside. We'll just leave the names for now. Well, again, I thought it was going to do it on the outside, but I guess that also needs to be the inside. And there we go. And so if we take our rabbit, let's do it again. Just say outside. See if I get lucky. Nope. And I don't know, maybe you guys, someone out there knows like how you look at it and know what side it needs to be on. But I just can tell you that whatever I do here will be opposite down here. Okay, so the last thing that I would do on this part is, well, we'll go ahead and I'm just gonna ungroup everything for 1 second. At least on the parts for the cutout. So on my cut through, I'm gonna go 1/2 inch deep, and I know that it will always be the outside. It's gonna cut on the outside on all these base operations that I name base and leave them black. So if I go to my 2D view, we've got it on the outside, and that's something that's reliable that I have found. So if I preview all the tool paths, so we can see this part here, except for maybe we didn't get, I don't know. What I was looking at is here in the graphic, it's showing that it's oh, I know exactly what I did. Okay, this is a good learning moment for you. Okay, so what I did is when I assigned my tools, I wasn't thinking, and I bet you if I go back through it, yep, I have my 3/8 of an inch end mill, which is actually not what I wanted. I want my 1/2 inch end mill. I do not know why it slipped my mind, but we're just gonna change that and hit calculate, and I've got to do that for each one. So we're gonna select my 1/2 inch end mill. Alright, so I'm going to put all this as 1/2 inch. Hit calculate, profile 3. Now this is my final cut through, so that can stay the 3/8. So now if I reset this, so if I go to my, so if I reset preview, and if I preview all my tool paths, it should look correct. There we go. That's what we want. So it is important, you know, your diameter of your tooling. Like you can see, like I was designing off a certain diameter of tooling, so I needed to make sure I had the correct tooling. But anyway, hopefully that gives you kind of a, you know, kind of like a surface level deep dive into, like, you know, using VCarve for cabinetry, because I think it does have its place. Very useful. I use a Cabinet Vision primarily to do the bulk, but Cabinet Vision definitely is very useful within my workflow. So hopefully you guys learned anything. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.